What is up, my YouTube family? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then it's just welcome to my channel, and now welcome back. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button because you will not be disappointed if your taste level is not lacking. And if it is, then girl, I don't know what to tell you. Y'all, my little day has been ruined. I bought this beautiful philodendron Billy, and I've been stalking my email waiting on her to ship. And I'm like, why has she not shipped? And I bought another plant afterward that arrives like tomorrow. And I'm like, why is she not shipping? I sit down here to film to tell y'all some of somebody else's business when I get a notification on my phone from them telling me, yeah, we've been observing this plant for a couple days and we don't feel like she can withstand shipping. So order canceled. What do you mean order canceled? And then I had two plants on this order. If I'd have known this one was not gonna work out, I probably would have just canceled the whole order, but child, they didn't even give me a chance. They didn't ship my other one, but I am gonna keep the second plant. I was really, when I tell y'all, stalking my email. I've been looking forward to this plant. Ugh, pains me that I will not be getting it. So hopefully I can find another about that size at a good price. I'm gonna put a picture in. The picture is gonna be real blurry, but this was the photo, and I'm just so disappointed because I want her so bad. And I really don't even believe the excuse they gave. I think they like double sold it or sold it to somebody else, maybe locally. I just don't feel like that's the truth, which adds to my frustration. But we're not here to talk about me and my frustration, okay? But I hope y'all are having a better day than I am. Unless your name is Shelly Knotek, who we are talking about today. Shelly, born Michelle Watson on April 15th of 1954, and she is an Aries. And when I tell you, she couldn't have been no other sign, and that's no shade to the Aries, but y'all know how y'all give it up. So, like I said, things are about to add up. And Michelle here was born in a town called Raymond, Washington. Now, Shelly has two brothers, and she is the oldest of the sibling group, being raised by their mentally ill, alcohol-dependent mother, Sharon. And Miss Sharon here is of the belief that you have to use what you got to get what you want. She supports herself and the children by selling herself, and mama works from home, okay? So this exposes the children to a lot of things that they probably should not have seen or witnessed or experienced at all at their very young ages. One day when Shelly is 6 years old, her mother Sharon does not return home. The abandoned young children are then sent to live with their father Les and his wife Laura, and they are seemingly in much better hands. Les, their father, is described as being a very charismatic businessman. His wife Laura is described as being very pretty and also charming. But despite how charming Miss Laura is, Shelly does not like her. She does not see it for Laura at all. And she takes every opportunity to either let her know by showing her or flat out telling her that she hates her. Now, Les, of course, tries to encourage a positive, healthy relationship between his new wife and his daughter. Laura also makes attempts to get Shelly to like her, to warm up to her, just thinking that this would change over time, but it doesn't. Shelly just does not like this lady, and she is not changing that for anybody. But as of late, Laura is not the only target of Shelly. She has also begun tormenting her younger brothers, literally since the day that their mother left. And as the young kids are becoming older, things are not becoming better between the siblings. Paul and Chuck are terrified of their older sister, especially the brother Chuck, who is a lot more timid and has a lot of trouble just speaking up for himself in general. And the things that Shelly would do to the boys, it goes far beyond like cornering them and shoving them into a wall or something like that. This girl is doing things that actually cause them harm. She would break glass and put the shards inside of the boys' shoes. And of course, they would tell the parents, who would then confront her about this, but then she just lies and says that she didn't do it. And she don't know how them shards of glass got into the boys' shoes. When Shelly is 13, she, along with her siblings, find out that their mother has now passed away. And according to Laura, the stepmom, Shelly is seemingly unfazed by this loss and never even asks what had happened to her. Now, according to the father, Les, Sharon was at the time living out on Skid Row with some guy and was unfortunately beaten pretty bad. The following year, one evening in March, Shelly does not return return home from school, and Les and Laura are very concerned. The boys don't know where she is. They don't know where she is or could be. The first place that they think should be a starting point to find her is the school, of course. And when they reach out to the school, they inform Les that Shelly has been locked up, okay? She is down to the detention center where she will be spending the night. Of course, when they hear this, Les is shocked and very upset, because if we're her parents, why have we not been made aware that there was an incident and she would not be returning home? But it is not Shelly who has committed the offense. Apparently, according to Shelly, Shelly is not in juvenile because she has gotten into any trouble at school. Shelly is in juvenile because it is actually them or Les that is in trouble, because Shelly had gone to school that day and made claims that her father had R-worded her. He and his new wife, they both are stunned by the accusations. He says that it is absolutely not true. He has no idea why, but he insists that Shelly is lying about this. They have her examined by a doctor who says that they could not find signs of such an occurrence having happened to her. And in addition to that, inside of her room, her parents go and find this copy of True Confessions in her room, and there's one page dog-eared, and this page is a 15-year-old girl telling the story of how her father had done this to her. The details of this story that she had been reading are eerily similar to the one that she is telling now, and so with all of that, it is determined that Shelly is more than likely fabricating this event. Her father wants her return back home. She is returned to him, and he puts her in therapy. She has multiple sessions with a psychologist. Some of the sessions they have as a family, some of them she has alone, and during all of them, Shelly denies that she lied, and she refuses to take accountability for anything that any of the family have accused her of. The glass in the shoes, the tormenting of the brothers. According to her, they were all lying, and she did not need this therapy. Les and Laura make a valiant effort to get Shelly on track, get her some help, but unfortunately it's to no avail, okay? It all turns out to be a complete waste of time, and ultimately she goes to live with Laura's parents, who have been active grandparents in her life since she was 6 years old, so they're no different than her biological grandparents. Unfortunately, things there are no better, and her behavior actually worsens. The teen throws tantrums like a young child whenever she does not get her way, and one of the neighbors that did not truly know her for her works hires her as a babysitter, and she just traumatizes these children by barricading them inside of their rooms with heavy furniture pushed up against the doors so they cannot get out. I ain't gonna hold you, this is probably the least thing I'm mad about. Despite what antics come with her being inside of their house, they do not give up on her. They want her there, and they continue to try to get down to the bottom of her behavioral issues. But when she accuses her grandfather of the same thing that she had accused her father of, that is where they draw the line. At this point, she is now 17 years of age, and instead of going back to her home with Les and Laura, Shelly decides to elope with this guy that she has been dating. They stay married for a couple of years, welcoming a baby girl that they named Nikki in 1975, and their marriage is dissolved shortly after that. And one thing about Shelly, she might not be able to keep a man, but she can for sure get her one, okay? She gets her another man. 3 years later, she was married again, welcoming a baby girl again. This one she named Sammy, and this marriage lasts longer than the first, but it also ends in divorce, leaving Shelly a young single mother of 2 girls now, but not single for long. In April of 1982, she meets a man by the name of David Knotek, a construction worker and Navy veteran. To David, she is the most beautiful girl he's ever seen in his entire life and all of his travel. They began dating, they married in 1987, and they welcomed their daughter Tori in 1989. Now, the Knoteks live in a very modest, cute little home, and we'll get into the dynamics of this household in just a second, but from the outside, they appear to be a very happy and normal family. When one of Shelly's brothers goes to jail, Shelly opens her home to take care of her 13-year-old nephew Shane because his mother was unable to care for him. His daddy was looking at a long time behind bars. Now, initially, he had been placed with the grandparents, but they have recently become very ill and unable to care for a teen, and so he is now being passed to Shelly. Shelly has always been super nice to him. He gets along great with her daughters, and he is eager to go stay with her, especially with how welcoming she is. She converts her basement into a bedroom for him, and at first he is feeling really good about living there with them. Shelly had always been super nice to him. He has this nice big bedroom all to himself, but he very quickly learns that his new household might not be as stable and happy as it appears. It begins with an overwhelming amount of chores, both inside of the house and yard work. She would then punish him for the smallest infraction, things so trivial that sometimes it just seemed like Shelly just wanted to be mad about something. And the punishments are very disproportionate to the offenses. Like, they're literally downright abuse. At first, she would confiscate his things, starting with toys or whatever else his 13-year-old self is using to occupy his time and entertain himself. And then when she runs out of things like that, she begins taking things like pillows, bed sheets, necessities, till it gets to the point where he is just down there with a mattress on the floor. And then from there, she begins restricting his shower access, his bathroom breaks. And it's not just him that she's treating like this. She's also horrible to her own kids, both mentally and physically. They too have to ask for permission every time they have to use the restroom. And if they go without permission, there will be repercussions every time. Shelly beats them, but her favorite method of punishment is something that she calls wallowing, where she would, in the middle of the night, have the child take off all of their clothes, go out to the backyard, lay in a mud puddle, where she hoses them down with cold water and forces them to roll back and forth like pigs. Not only does Shelly have a favorite method of punishment, she has her favorite targets as well, which are her oldest two daughters, Nikki and Sammy. She forces them to cut off their pubic hairs and patches and give them to her, and then she taunts them and humiliates them about it. And in addition to wallowing, she would make Nikki and Sammy sometimes spend hours locked up inside of a chicken coop or a dog kennel. One day, she becomes so enraged with Sammy that she grabs her head and pushes it through a glass door. Over time, Shane becomes really close with the girls, and they are more like his sisters than his cousins. Shelly, being the bully that she is, uses this in an effort to make them feel weird about each other. She makes her now 13-year-old daughter, Nikki, who's the oldest, strip and slow dance with Shane in the living room in front of everyone while she laughs and makes fun of them. And although she is terrible, Shelly's not terrible to the kids all of the time. She is very much like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. After each one of her very vile acts, she always love bombs the family. It was a very, very stressful environment because the kids don't know when she is going to go off, what might set her off. They literally walk around the house on eggshells, knowing that her going off at some point was inevitable, and Shelly is definitely a ticking time bomb. That same level of hatred that Shelly grew up having for her stepmother Laura is the same kind of hatred that Shane develops for her over time, and it does not take long. He and her oldest daughter Nikki are very close in age. They're, I believe, a year apart. They often vent to each other about Shelly's behavior and even discuss tossing a radio into her bath water one day. But deep down, Nikki is holding out hope that one day her mother will change, that someday she will be good 100% of the time. The only person at this point in the house that is free of Shelly's wrath is her youngest daughter, Tori, who is an infant. But that is not the case forever. Now, in December of 1988, just a few months into Shane's stay, Shelly welcomes in another person who is in need of a place to stay, 36-year-old Kathy Loreno. Kathy is an old friend of Shelly's who has recently lost her job, had a falling out with her family, and has now fallen upon hard times. At this point, she has no one else that she can call on other than Shelly. And Shelly offers her to come live with them until she gets on her feet. She tells her that there's no need to worry about paying her. She can help her out with chores around the house and with the kids in exchange for room and board. And just as she had done with Shane, she welcomes in Kathy with all of this hospitality, reassures Kathy that, she is here to help her any way that she can. Everything will be okay. There's no need to worry, all of the things, right? Well, Shelly had always been very nice to Kathy. The two of them met when Kathy was working as a hairdresser, and they really hit it off. They were good girlfriends. But it is not long after Kathy joins the Knotek household before Shelly's mask begins to slip, and she gets a glimpse of who this woman really is. Shelly constantly takes jabs at Kathy about her weight. She degrades her. She rations her food, telling her that this is what's best for her. And then she begins drugging Kathy every night with tranquilizers, claiming that she's trying to help her sleep and like this is needed. To earn her keep, she has Kathy perform household chores, which was expected in the beginning, but she is making Kathy perform these chores in the nude, and Kathy, having nowhere else to go, feels stuck there dealing with this treatment. She also has Kathy sleeping in the basement on the floor next to the boiler, and despite how crazy the living situation is, Kathy remains living in the Knotek household for the next 5 years, and in that time she loses over 100 pounds. Her much slimmer frame is now covered in bruises and scars from injuries sustained over the years, either at the hands of Shelly directly or as a result of her labor. David also participates in the ill treatment of Kathy. In one instance, he puts together a makeshift waterboarding station to be used on Kathy. In another instance, he helps Shelly duct tape this lady's arms and legs together while Shelly pours bleach on her cuts. Kathy being there really complicates things for the children because they witness this horrible treatment of her, and although they feel really terrible for her, her being there has kind of taken the heat and attention off of them. While Kathy is there, Shelly mostly ignores the kids, now having Kathy in this sadistic cycle of torment and then love bombing. And the kids are very conflicted with their feelings because they also feel bad for feeling their relief. Like, they don't want to see it happening to her, but it's like, not better her than us, but kinda the light version. And honestly, when I first read that Kathy had remained in the Knotek household for 5 long years, I was upset. Like, girl, why wouldn't you leave? But it took me reading how the kids described feeling at the time to realize that maybe she stayed to be that distraction for the kids. She knew if it wasn't her, it would be them, so she wanted to like shield them. I think that may be what happened. I really feel like she was shielding them all that time from Shelly. Unfortunately, whether it is or was intentional or not, the children would not be shielded for much longer. In July of 1994, after one of the worst sessions of punishment that Kathy has had to endure to date, she is left unconscious on the basement floor. Shelly leaves the house for something, and while she is gone, David can hear gurgling sounds coming from the basement. He goes down to check on Kathy and finds her there convulsing, vomiting, and choking. He turns Kathy onto her side, begins scooping the vomit out of her mouth with his fingers, and even tries to give her CPR, but nothing he does works. David briefly contemplates dialing 911, but then he decides not to because he is afraid that everything that's been going on in that house would be exposed. Even if not, how will he explain the condition of her body with like bruises and all of these scars? Like, it's very obvious that something else happened. Without a doubt, there will be a lot of questions being asked. He doesn't want to be in trouble. He does not want his wife to be in trouble or the kids to be further traumatized. And how he sees it at this moment, calling 911 will just ruin not only their family, but everyone's individual life. So he waits for Shelly to come home to tell him what to do. Shelly rounds the children up. She has a family meeting letting them know that Kathy is no longer with them, and if anyone finds out about it, each of them will be thrown into jail, children included. Per his wife's command, David burns the remains in the backyard, and then the two of them go together and spread the ashes in the Pacific Ocean. This one like being in the ocean with my mouth open right now. After a while, Kathy's family, they begin asking questions because it's like she has just vanished. No one has heard from her. One of her family members goes to report her missing, and when the police come out to speak with the Knotek, Shelly informs them that Kathy had found love. Okay, she had fallen in love with the truck driver and has since moved away with him to California to start their lives together. That is the story that Shelly had decided would be told each time anyone inquired about Kathy, and the kids were forced to just roll with it. And then later in the same year, another member of the Knotek family goes missing. Now 19-year-old Shane, the nephew. Shane had known that his aunt was a horrible person by now and that his uncle David wasn't quite right either, but this happening with Kathy was a lot. Shane had begun building up a case against them. Shane had a collection of photos over the whole 5 years that Kathy was there. Photos of her malnourished, her laying unclothed on the cold hard floor of the basement next to the radiator, close-up photos of her injuries. He had photos of everything. He had been documenting her treatment to one day go to the police, blow the whistle, and free them all of Shelly. But he was waiting on the time that he felt was the right time, and him not doing this before they lost Kathy really has upset him. He does not want to tell this lie about her running off and having a happily ever after when what really happened to her was the exact opposite. Shane decides that it's now or never. He comes up with a plan to expose Shelly before it's too late for someone else, and he shares his plan with Nikki as well as all of this evidence that he has. Shows her the photos, lets her know like this is about to be over. But it was a mistake to do so because Nikki goes right to Shelly and tells her about Shane's plan. At this point, Shelly sees Shane as a direct threat to her family, to her household, her freedom, and orders David to neutralize said threat. One shot to the head in the backyard, and David obliges. The same as with Kathy. Afterward, the remains are burned and then scattered in a nearby body of water. Anytime someone notices Shane's absence and inquires about him, Shelly tells them that Shane had run off to Alaska to work on a fishing boat. Every now and again, when someone asks, she'll throw in a new detail either for her own amusement or just to seem more believable. Like, oh, he has a girlfriend now, or he has a new place. Just lies that she comes up with seemingly off the top of her head. Now let me paint a more detailed picture of David. When the two of them met and he locked eyes on Shelly, believing she was the most beautiful woman in the world, he is very easily able to win her over. The two began dating, obviously, and they were a typical happy couple. Things were all good, very normal, right up until he marries Shelly. Very soon after they tie the knot, she becomes abusive both emotionally and physically to David, not absolving him of any blame here, but he is also somewhat of a victim of hers. Make no mistake, baby, Shelly is the boogeyman of the story. David is described as being a very meek and mild-mannered man, a very weak, spineless man who, no matter how big or small the moment is, can never seem to muster up enough gumption to stand up to his wife. The children were afraid of her, and David is too. Just a straight up beta, okay? Beta male. David suffers the least out of everybody, partly due to the fact that because he works construction, he is away from the home for months at a time on construction jobs. So he does not witness a lot of what goes on in the house, but he is not 100% oblivious nor innocent. I could not find his exact birthday, only that he was born in 1952, which means he is about 2 years older than Shelly. With Kathy gone, Shane now gone, things go back to the way that they were before either of them came into the household, with Nikki and Sammy receiving the brunt of Shelly's wrath, now more fearful than ever of their mother. As soon as the girls' circumstances would allow them to, each of them move out of the household, and now the only one there that's left to torment is 14-year-old Tori, the Knotek's youngest daughter. And then in 1999, Shelly opens her doors to another old friend of hers, 57-year-old Ron Woodworth. Now, Ron is a veteran who has an issue with substance abuse, and he has recently begun displaying some very erratic behaviors after his partner had packed up and left him. And at the time that he joins the Knotek household, it is just Shelly and Tori there because David is working on a contract project that is 160 miles away. And it is the same song and dance. Shelly gives Ron this very warm welcoming. She is super accommodating and very loving until she's not. And it begins with just a lot of verbal issues, like her taking jabs at his homosexuality. She refers to him as an ugly lowlife and is constantly just talking down either to him or about him. Just as she had done with the children, she controls his bathroom breaks, and he's an older man who has a little bit more trouble controlling his bladder, adhering to these allotted bathroom breaks. One day, Shelly forces him to drink some of his own urine. So before Ron allows himself to be caught using her restroom off schedule, he sneaks outside to relieve himself. Shelly makes Ron perform yard chores in his underwear in an effort to humiliate him, which the neighbors saw and thought was weird, but they figured maybe he just likes cutting grass in underwear. Shelly was sick. She did a lot of terrible things to Ron, but nothing beats the day that she forces him off of the roof of their home. He lands barefoot, as if socks or shoes would have mattered. But he lands feet first, and this fall results in some very severe injuries. Shelly drags him inside and cleans up his wounds with bleach diluted with water, which she continues to do periodically to keep him from having an infection. And it takes about a month, but ultimately he succumbs to these injuries. And Tori tells her sister that the house smelled like the bleach was burning his skin. And this terrible odor had filled the house up until Ron was removed from the house. Now, at the time that he passes away, David is still away on his job, so she wraps him up and puts him in the freezer until her husband can come home and deal with it. When David comes home, there is a burn ban in effect, so they're not allowed to burn anything. Okay, not in their backyards. So she just has David bury him right there in the ground in their backyard. And this is so creepy to Tori. Like, all of this is creepy to her, but she is just disgusted, traumatized, horrified, and afraid. Shelly doesn't even tell David the truth about what had happened to Ron. Instead, she tells David that Ron was in a horrible place emotionally. He was depressed because his partner had left and things were just falling apart and he couldn't take it anymore and ended himself. Now, everyone else, she tells Ron had gotten his life together, gotten himself a nice job out in Tacoma, and was now doing well. Recently, Shelly has taken over the care of an elderly man named James Mclen. He's an 81-year-old retired crewman. Now, James never moves in with the Knotek's. He has his own home that Shelly goes to care for him for 6 months before he tragically suffers a nasty fall inside of his home. At some point during the 6-month period that she had worked with James, he had willed his house that was worth $140,000 to Shelly, but no foul play is suspected and his will is carried out. This is another something that just does not sit right with Miss Tori. She keeps her sisters updated on Shelly's antics and tells her that she is afraid of her mother not stopping and who might be next. And at this point, the sisters decide that enough is enough and it is now time to put an end to their mother's reign of terror. They have Tori gather some of Ron's belongings as evidence. They have a meeting at Nikki's house, the oldest sister, where they come up with a plan. All of them are now on board for turning Shelly in. So together they go to the police and tell them everything. August 8th of 2003, the Knotek family's house is searched. Ron is found in the backyard just where Tori said that he would be, and both David and Shelly are arrested. With both parents now locked up and behind bars, they put Tori in Sammy's custody, which was something that the sisters had previously discussed. Shelly is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder for Ron and Kathy. She is never charged in connection with James's death because no foul play still at this point is suspected. David is charged for 1 count of murder for the nephew Shane. He folds like origami. He accepts a plea deal in exchange for a reduced sentence. David is sentenced to 15 years in prison. Now, as for Shelly, she also opts for a plea deal, but she puts in an Alfred plea, which allows her to agree to do the time, like accept the punishment without admitting real guilt. I mean, it's technically a guilty plea, yes, but she gets to still maintain her innocence and just say that she put in a guilty plea because she realizes with all the evidence against her, like, they could paint a picture that may get a conviction. And with this, she is able to avoid a public trial, meaning a lot of the details of what she had done was not put on display for the public to know, was not widely known. She also gets to avoid more charges because if she went to trial with this, baby, all of the abuse and everything would come up, and I'm sure she would still be in the statute of limitations for at least her youngest daughter, Tori. So she felt like, a lawyer felt like, and even I feel like, the plea deal was truly her best bet because she got out of there with a 22-year prison sentence scheduled to be released in 2025. In 2018, after serving 13 years of his 15-year sentence, David is paroled, and he reaches out to his daughters to ask for forgiveness and a second chance at being a good father. The youngest two daughters, Tori, which is his biological daughter, and then Sammy, his youngest stepdaughter, they forgive him and have gone on record to say that despite everything that has happened, they forgive him, they see him as their father, they consider him to be one of Michelle's victims. Sammy has said, quote, "The reason why my mom was able to control David was because while I love him, he's just a very weak man. He has no backbone. He could have got happily married and been an amazing husband to someone because he really would have been, but instead he just got his life ruined too," end quote. Now, the oldest daughter, Nikki, feels a bit different. She says that the things that they went through in their childhood is both unforgettable and unforgivable. She does not accept David's apology, and in her opinion, she feels that neither adult in the situation deserves grace for the part that they played in it, no matter how big or small. Now, in June of 2022, Shelly goes up for parole, and her family members do not want her out. They fear that she is super manipulative and probably has been able to play the role of this good, nice, reformed prisoner deserving of early release for good behavior when she is still the monster that she went in as. By this point, she has served 18 years of her sentence, and her kids don't care that she is 68, okay? They said this lady is a menace and should be behind bars. That even at 68, she is manipulative and dangerous. Sammy has been very vocal about her mother. She said that she doesn't want her mom to be able to hide who she really is, that when she does come out of prison, she doesn't want her to be able to just resume a life, people not knowing how horrible she is, that her mother is a monster and she cannot and has not outgrown that. Now, at this particular parole hearing, her request is denied, but her next opportunity to parole comes just months later, and this request is granted. So November 8th of 2022, Shelly was released from prison. Now, the news of her early release was met with widespread outrage and disapproval, and I don't know where she went after she was released, but if you see a lady that look like this and she hands you cold fries through the window, baby, either go home and put them in the air fryer or just take them and go. Do not engage, okay? If she is the lady at the daycare counter when you go to take your baby and do that walkthrough, just turn around, girl, get back in your car. Do not drop your baby off to that daycare. I don't know where this lady is or what she could be doing, but I know she is amongst us. Keep your eyes peeled. I read that even with where she was in prison, she never traveled more than or further than 2 hours north of her hometown, but I can't see her going back to the hometown, so maybe she's traveled far and wide. I don't know where this lady is, y'all, but you've been warned. Nikki and Sammy are now in their 40s. They are living happily without any contact with this lady, and they want nothing to do with her. They both reside in Seattle, and Tori apparently needed a change of scenery, understandably, and has relocated to Colorado. So hopefully everybody is still doing well, because 2023 was rough. Anywho, that is all I got for you today. My laptop is about to die, so I gotta wrap this up. Like the video if you have not, subscribe if you have not, leave your comments and your thoughts down below so I can read them and we can get into it a little bit more. As always, I appreciate you so much for spending your time with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace. What is up? What is up with my voice? Oh, one of you is thrown up soil. Why do you have soil in your belly? All right, I'm back. What was I saying? Today we will be there. Shelly born Michelle Watson on 18. I was thinking April, but I said 18. There is not an 8 in her birthday. These people just really single-handedly ruined my whole day. I can't believe I forgot about this little piece of hair in the closet. Why is my eyebrow weight? Oh. The plant thing has me so thrown off. I don't even know. I don't know what's going on. because she sells. When Shelly is 6 years old, she. Look at these people. I don't want to come join you live, okay? Get out of here. Why is my phone not on Do Not Disturb? Paul and Chuck are both very afraid of their older sister, Laura. Laura was the mama girl, the new mama. And the things that, I almost call her Sheila girl, Shelly would do to the boys. So the first place that they think to reach, with this, she is returned back to home. Lesson lawyer. What? Lesson law. I was about to say it again. Lesson lawyer. Why? Laura. But their marriage is dissolved. What? That same level of hatred that Shelly grew up having for a lawyer. Why is that her name in my mind? 36-year-old Catholic. Why did I throw an L in there? No, you know what? That plant news got me thrown off, baby. They got me messed up. Known Shelly to be super nice. The two of them had met while Kathy was working at Shelly informs them that Michelle had found, okay, no, that is Michelle, who, no matter how big her smile the moment, what? Nikki and Sammy, why can't I say Sammy? Ron is a veteran who has a substance abuse. David is away for a project that she makes him perform. I was trying to say perform chores. She tells David that Ron was in a let me get a little piece of thumbnail, girl, before the camera died. Laptop. Come on, wig, get back here.